Mia Jones had always preferred numbers to people. Clean, predictable, obedient. Numbers didn't talk back, didn't lie, and never expected small talk. As a senior security analyst at Anderson Tech, she was a digital ghost, meticulous, brilliant, and fiercely private. She kept to herself, stayed out of office gossip, and wore her independence like armor. Mia was stunning, though she'd never admit it. Deep sable skin with a velvet glow that didn't need highlighter. Full lips often painted in muted MAC reds, and sharp cheekbones that framed eyes always scanning for weaknesses in networks and people. Her hair was a sleek jet black bob that brushed her jawline, straightened and flipped just slightly at the ends. She dressed in structured blazers and body-skimming dresses that flattered her athletic curves without inviting comment. Her makeup was understated but flawless. Clean lines, cool tones, nothing wasted. But even the most calculated systems break down. She hadn't slept in nearly 3 days. Deadlines, backlogs, emergency patches, one thing after another. Caffeine and adrenaline had kept her moving, but the crash came hard. A low-grade fever she'd ignored for days simmered under her skin, dulling her senses and draining her focus. She hadn't eaten much, she hadn't slowed down, and still, she'd let her coworkers drag her to the penthouse party Jamison Anderson, the CEO himself, was throwing. It was supposed to be a celebration. Mia hated parties, but the promise of high-end food and a few minutes of mental quiet had gotten her through the door. It hit her halfway through the night. A sudden lightness in her limbs, the bass of the music throbbing in her skull, faces blurred, her vision tunneled. She clutched the back of a velvet couch, trying to steady herself, but the rune wouldn't stop shifting. Her body, betrayed and exhausted, gave up before she could make it to the door. She collapsed. Silence hit the room like a snapped wire. Everything after that was black. When Mia finally opened her eyes, disoriented and groggy, the last face she expected to see was her mother's. "Mom?" Her voice cracked, a whisper coated in disbelief. Karen Jones, still dressed in her travel sweats and a head wrap, smiled as she brushed a cool cloth across Mia's forehead. "Hey, baby, you scared the hell out of me." Mia blinked against the hospital lights. "How? Your HR file listed me as your emergency contact. Jamison Anderson had a car waiting for me before I could even pack a proper bag." Mia sat up, or tried to. Her mother gently pressed her back down. "You're not going anywhere. Miss, I haven't slept in days. The doctors say you need at least a week to recover. And you're not going home alone. Jamison already took care of that." That's when Mia realized she wasn't in a hospital room. She was in a guest suite. Clean, minimalist, expensive. A private nurse came in shortly after, followed by the rich scent of roasted vegetables and something distinctly French. Jamison had assigned his personal chef to make sure she ate. Mia didn't know whether to be grateful or suspicious. "I'm fine, Mom. I can go home." Karen folded her arms. "You can't stand for more than 5 minutes without swaying like a sapling in a storm. You're staying." And she did. For the next several days, Karen played nurse and watchdog, while Jamison played something else. He started coming home early, slipping off his tailored jacket to join them for dinner. He was warm, funny even. His usual hard-edged CEO persona softened into someone almost charming. He asked about Mia's childhood, told stories from his own, and once spent a whole hour helping Karen make cornbread from scratch. Mia watched him like he was a stranger wearing Jamison Anderson's face. They'd barely exchanged more than a few words at the office. Usually clipped, professional, forgettable. But here, he was relaxed, invested. His eyes lingered on her just a beat too long. Karen noticed. One evening, after Mia had gone to lie down, Karen pulled Jamison aside in the hallway. "What exactly are your intentions with my daughter?" she asked, folding her arms with quiet authority. Jamison rubbed the back of his neck and gave a sheepish laugh. "Honestly, I just want a chance to get to know her, if she'll let me. But she's guarded." Karen raised an eyebrow, then nodded slowly. "All right, I'll help, but don't waste her time." He smiled. "I won't. However, their growing closeness didn't go unnoticed. Debbie Lattimore, a sharp-tongued board member with deep pockets and deeper history with Jamison, had been watching everything unfold with a simmering edge. She had known Jamison for years, shared power lunches, strategy retreats, and once, a brief but intense romance that had never grew the way she wanted. She always believed that when Jamison was finally ready to slow down, it would be her waiting at the finish line. But now, his evenings were filled with quiet dinners and soft laughter, with Mia Jones, a woman Debbie barely knew and didn't care to. One evening, she cornered Jamison in his office just as he was packing up early. Again. "You've been different lately," she said, voice cool and calculated, distracted, soft. Jamison didn't look up. "Is there a point, Debbie?" She stepped closer. "Are you sleeping with her?" His eyes flicked up, jaw tightening. "No. And that's none of your business. But she's in your home, getting private chefs, nurses. Come on, Jamison, don't insult me." He didn't respond. Debbie's silence sharpened. She saw everything she needed to in that pause. Later that night, she made her move. Within a week, rumors started swirling around the office. Whispers about Mia sleeping her way to the top, about favoritism, manipulation. An anonymous tip to HR questioning her ethics. A memo mysteriously leaked to internal teams questioning Mia's handling of a recent security audit, one she had flawlessly completed. The smear campaign had begun. Debbie wasn't going to let some low-level analyst, no matter how brilliant, derail everything she thought was hers. Mia, meanwhile, had no idea the storm heading her way, or how deeply it would test everything, including Jamison's loyalty. Things took a sharp turn when Anderson Tech was hit by an attempted cyberattack, an aggressive breach targeting the company's most sensitive client data. Firewalls trembled, alerts lit up, and chaos buzzed through every floor of the headquarters. It was the kind of threat that could dismantle careers, even empires. Jamison didn't hesitate. He called Mia. Despite the rumors, the whispers, the weight of Debbie's sabotage, Jamison knew one thing. Mia was the best. She set up a war room within the hour. Sleeves rolled up, eyes locked on code. She moved like a storm, silent, efficient, lethal. Jamison sat with her into the early hours, combing through logs, threat maps, packet traces. Their conversations were fast, sharp, unfiltered. There was no time for pretense, and something about that, about solving real problems under real pressure, pulled them closer than any quiet dinner ever could. They fell into a rhythm, understanding each other without needing to explain. But even in the adrenaline rush of defending the company, Mia hadn't forgotten the smear campaign. The toll it had taken on her reputation, her peace, her privacy. One night, as the breach began to unravel and the threat source came into focus, Mia finally spoke up. "I didn't sign up for all this," she said, not looking away from her screen. The rumors, the stares, being treated like some sort of distraction. Jamison didn't respond right away. She continued, her voice quieter. "Debbie caused a lot of damage. I didn't ask for your attention, Jamison. I just wanted to do my job and go home." He looked at her, truly looked at her, beyond the firewalls and scripts. "I know," he said softly. "We'll finish tracking the last IP chain," she said, leaning back. "Then I'm thinking about taking a leave of absence." Jamison's stomach dropped, but he nodded slowly. "If that's what you need." He wanted to tell her not to go, that he needed her, that the company did. But right now, Mia needed space and respect, and Jamison wasn't about to be the next person to take that away from her. As Mia and Jamison worked to close the breach, it became clear this wasn't just a random cyber attack. It was deliberate, surgical, personal. The deeper Mia dug, the more disturbing the patterns became. The attackers hadn't only tried to steal proprietary data. They had embedded a destructive virus designed to wipe out years of code, development logs, research files, and financial archives. The objective wasn't just to steal from Anderson Tech. It was to cripple it. Mia ran the traces again, chasing the IP jumps through international proxies and dark web relays. Finally, she found the origin point, a rival tech conglomerate called Virion Systems. They had been circling Anderson Tech for years, constantly behind them in market share, innovation, and prestige. Jamison had turned down several merger talks with Virion's CEO, Damon Ricks, a ruthless man with a reputation for playing dirty. This wasn't just corporate theft, Mia said, voice tight. They wanted to burn your entire infrastructure to the ground. Jamison clenched his jaw. And they would have done it too if you weren't here. But there was one problem still unsolved. How did they get access? Anderson Tech's servers were fortress-level secure, and only a handful of employees had the credentials required to reach the systems Virion had touched. There's no way this was done without help from the inside, Mia said. Someone gave them a way in. The air in the room shifted. Cold, quiet. They began cross-referencing login histories and internal communications. Mia narrowed it down to a few employees with the right clearance, but one stood out. Zane Harlow, mid-level systems engineer, smart, ambitious, and recently transferred into one of the company's most sensitive departments. He had no real reason to be in some of the directories he'd accessed in the weeks before the breach. When Mia ran a secondary trace, she found something even more alarming. A hidden encrypted folder buried in a shared server node. Inside, fragments of Virion's data packet signatures and emails Zane had tried to erase. He was a mole. Mia looked at Jamison. We've got him. Jamison didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, he picked up his phone. Get legal, now. Within 24 hours, Zane was quietly escorted out of the building. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial payments from shell companies tied to Virion, unauthorized access logs, and a direct link to the virus insertion point. Legal prepared a federal case. Cybercrime units were looped in. But for Mia, the victory was hollow. They had saved the company. She was exhausted. The smear campaign had left bruises, and the fight had drained what little she had left. Her name was cleared when the internal report was released, but the damage had already been done. The doubt, the whispers, the sideways looks. That night, as the building emptied out and security locked down the last of the breach points, Mia sat in Jamison's office, watching the city lights blink in the distance. I think I'm still going to take that leave, she said. Jamison turned to her, quiet. Even after all this? I need to breathe, Jamison. Not chase fire after fire. Not prove myself to people who already made up their minds. He didn't try to stop her. He didn't ask her to stay. Instead, he nodded. You've earned it. But I hope it's not goodbye. She met his eyes. For once they weren't boss and employee. They were just two people who had survived a war together. I'll let you know when I'm ready to come back, she said. If the door's still open. For you, he said, managing a small smile. It always will be. Karen found Mia sitting alone on the balcony of Jamison's penthouse. Wrapped in a blanket, her untouched tea growing cold beside her. The city stretched out below them, bright, loud, and alive. But Mia looked far away from all of it. Karen took the chair beside her and waited a moment before speaking. You've been quiet lately, she said gently. Mia gave a tired smile. A lot on my mind. I figured. Karen sipped from her own cup. So, are you gonna tell me how you feel about that man, or am I supposed to guess? Mia didn't answer right away. She stared out into the city lights, then finally said, I really like him. Karen arched an eyebrow. That's it? I do. I like him more than I want to, Mia admitted. But I'm not about his lifestyle, Mom. The spotlight, the constant scrutiny, the whispering, it never stops. And it's worse for women like me. Karen stayed silent, letting her daughter speak freely. In corporate America, being a black woman already puts a target on your back, Mia said. You have to be twice as good just to be taken half as seriously. And when you're connected to someone with power, they don't see you. They see an agenda, a climb, a scandal. Karen's expression was soft but steady. Debbie? Mia nodded. I didn't know about her and Jamison. If I had, I might have handled things differently, but now I'm stuck in a fight I didn't ask for. with a woman I didn't even know existed. She thinks you stole her man? That's the sad part, Mia said with a bitter chuckle. She thinks I wanted to, like I was gunning for him the whole time, like I played some long game, and just trying to breathe, and suddenly I'm the villain in a story I didn't write. Karen reached over and gently touched Mia's hand. His past doesn't change how he feels about you. I'm not even sure how he feels, Mia muttered. Then talk to him. Mia shook her head. There's nothing to talk about. Karen gave her daughter a long look. Mia, I've watched you keep the world at arm's length for most of your life. But don't mistake control for peace. You can be strong and still want love. I want to live life my way, Mia said firmly. I've worked too hard, kept too clean, and fought too many battles to get where I am. I deserve to choose what kind of life I lead. And Jamison's life, all that power and visibility and politics, it's not for me. Karen nodded slowly, considering her daughter's words. Then tell him that, on your terms. But don't run from something good just because it comes with baggage. Everything worth having does. Mia looked down, her chest tightening. I don't know if I'm built for love in public, she said. Especially not when it comes with old lovers, boardroom whispers, and headlines. Karen stood, then leaned over and kissed her forehead. You don't have to decide today. Just don't let fear make the choice for you. Mia stayed out on the balcony long after her mother went inside. The city kept buzzing, unaware of her turmoil. Jamison's world was polished and relentless. Hers had always been quiet, controlled, behind the scenes. She wasn't sure yet if those two worlds could ever meet. But she was sure of one thing. When she walked away, it would be her choice. Not Debbie's, not the rumor mill's, not even Jamison's. No one but hers. The invitation arrived a couple weeks later. Mia was expected to attend the annual gala, but she decided to go. But Karen wasn't taking no for an answer. You've been hiding long enough, she told Mia, waving off her protests. This gala is for a good cause. It's not about him. It's about showing up for something bigger than all this drama. And you'll feel better once you remind them who you are. Mia rolled her eyes, but eventually gave in. Karen, already 3 steps ahead, had arranged everything. A hair appointment at the top natural salon in the city, a makeup artist who specialized in bold, glowing elegance, and a dress, a sculpted, deep emerald green ball gown with an off-the-shoulder neckline that hugged Mia's curves and flared into soft satin at the waist. It was timeless. It was stunning. And it made her skin glow like polished bronze under moonlight. Mia barely recognized herself in the mirror, hair styled into soft waves that framed her face, eyes smoky with gold and brown shimmer, lips painted in a deep plum that turned heads. She looked powerful, regal, unapologetically herself. When she stepped out of the car at the gala, the world slowed. And when Jamison saw her from across the room, he stopped mid-conversation. The crowd at the annual youth outreach fundraiser was used to glamour, politicians, athletes, CEOs, but Mia didn't look like a guest. She looked like a statement. Jamison excused himself and crossed the floor with intent, his gaze never leaving her. When he reached her, he didn't speak at first. He just stared, stunned. You look unbelievable, he finally said, voice low. Thank my mom, Mia replied, trying to keep it light. I should thank her every day. Before she could respond, he gently took her hand and placed it on his arm. You're with me tonight, he said, just loud enough for those around them to hear. And just like that, the entire room took notice. Every camera clicked, heads turned, and Debbie Lattimore, standing near the champagne tower in an icy silver dress, took a slow sip and narrowed her eyes. It didn't take long for her to find her moment. Later in the evening, while Jamison was speaking with the mayor, Debbie intercepted Mia near the hallway to the restroom, her smile tight and brittle. You clean up well, she said, her voice coated in sugar and venom. Mia tilted her head. Thanks, you too. Debbie stepped closer, her heels clicking sharply against the marble. Let me give you a piece of advice. Women like us don't survive long in rooms like this if we forget where we stand. Mia's smile faded. Excuse me? I know what you're doing, Debbie said, eyes cold. You think because you caught his attention, you're something special. You're not. Jamison doesn't belong in your world. He belongs in mine. You're just a phase, a distraction. Mia inhaled slowly, steadying herself. You mean I don't belong in your world? Say what you mean. Debbie laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think this is about race? No, Mia said calmly. You do. For a beat, neither woman moved. The air between them turned sharp. I'm not the enemy, Debbie, Mia added. But if you keep coming for me, I will stop being polite about it. Debbie leaned in, her voice a whisper. Watch your step, Mia. That man doesn't just come with power. Comes with enemies. And people like me don't lose. Mia didn't flinch. Then you've already lost. Because I'm not playing your game. She turned and walked back into the ballroom, heels silent but purposeful. When Jamison returned to her side, he noticed something in her expression had shifted. Everything all right? He asked. Mia looked at him, really looked at him. The man who brought her mother from the airport, hired her a nurse, fought beside her through a cyber attack, and never once asked her to shrink for his comfort. No, she said. But it will be. Jamison gently cupped her hand, thumb grazing her fingers. I know tonight probably wasn't easy. But I'm glad you came. I came for the kids, she said with a half smile. The drama was just a bonus. He laughed softly. You handled it all with grace. I'm not here to impress your world, Jamison, she said, her voice steady. I'm not chasing your spotlight. I just want to live my life. If you're in it, that's your choice. But I won't compete with your past. And I won't fight for a place I didn't ask for. His smile softened. Then I'll make sure you never have to. As they returned to the heart of the gala, hand in hand, Mia felt something settle in her chest. The tension hadn't disappeared, but she was no longer carrying it alone. She hadn't chosen this spotlight, but she wasn't afraid of standing in it anymore. The gala had come and gone, but the aftershocks lingered. Mia had barely stepped out of her heels before Jamison pulled her aside the next morning, quiet and intent. I need to say something, he told her in the privacy of his office, door closed, sunlight catching on the edge of his desk. She folded her arms cautious. Okay, he ran a hand over his jaw, searching for the right words. I liked you, Mia. I don't mean admire your work like. I mean I care about you. I think about you more than I should. And it's not just because of what you've done for this company. It's who you are. The room grew heavier with each word. Mia's heart picked up, but her expression remained unreadable. Jamison, she started, her voice even. You're my boss. I know, I've thought about that, and honestly, it's a problem I don't have a clean answer to. But I don't want to pretend this connection doesn't exist. She looked down, twisting the ring on her finger. What would that even look like? She asked. Us, with you sitting in the CEO seat and me reporting under your chain of command? I'd be talked about every day of my life. He didn't interrupt. He let her speak. I'm not saying no, she added after a long pause. But I'm not jumping in blind either. I've built too much to gamble it all on a feeling. He nodded slowly, absorbing her words. Fair. That night, Mia couldn't sleep. Her thoughts spun in circles. What if she let herself fall for him? What would it cost? Could they survive the rumors, the scrutiny, the power imbalance? Could they even exist outside the crisis that had pulled them together? Sleep never came. Instead, she channeled her restlessness back into the cyber investigation. Something still didn't sit right. The breach was too precise, too well-timed. And even though Zane had taken the fall, there was something off about the entry point. She hadn't let it go. Not really. Mia pulled up archived email logs late that night, filtering through internal communication patterns. Most of it was noise, calendar invites, approval chains, mundane work threads. But then she noticed a handful of emails that didn't follow the usual corporate language. Short, vague, sent outside normal hours. One in particular stopped her cold. It had been sent from an executive's email account, someone who was out of town during the breach window. The message had gone to a new night security guard named Kyle Marin, who'd been hired only 3 months ago. The body of the email was a single sentence. Delivery at loading dock 3. No questions. It was sent at 2:16 a.m. Mia dug deeper, pulling Kyle's personnel file, security logs, and badge access data. Sure enough, he'd swiped into the executive floor 2 hours after the email was sent, stayed for 17 minutes, and then disappeared from the system for the rest of the night. No incident report. No follow-up. Mia's heart kicked into overdrive. This wasn't Zane. He may have been a conduit, but someone else had orchestrated the logistics and spoofed an executive email to do it. That required internal access, finesse, and a full understanding of company infrastructure. She flagged the email chain, saved the logs, and cross-referenced the IP addresses. Within minutes, she had a second breadcrumb. The spoofed email came from inside the building, not from a remote location, not from Virion Systems. Whoever was behind this had been in the building the night it happened and used the guard as a pawn. The next morning, Mia marched into Jamison's office with a folder in hand. "We've been chasing the wrong end of the thread," she said without preamble. Zane wasn't acting alone. "I think I found the real key player." She dropped the folder on his desk. Jamison opened it, scanning the logs. "Security," he said, frowning. "No," Mia corrected. "Someone with access to an executive-level account. Someone who knew how to move quietly and erase their tracks. Kyle was just the runner. Someone else was pulling the strings." Jamison looked up at her, impressed and unnerved. "This could mean it's someone still inside the company." "It does mean that," Mia said. "And I'm going to find out who." There was silence as Jamison processed the weight of that truth. Then he said softly, "You amaze me, you know that?" Mia offered a small smile, tired but focused. "I'm just doing my job." But in the back of her mind, the lines between duty and something deeper continued to blur. The following morning, an emergency board meeting was called, private, urgent, and fully attended. Jamison stood at the head of the long glass conference table, his suit crisp, voice calm, but the tension in his shoulders unmistakable. Beside him stood Mia, composed and poised, holding the slim black folder that would detonate everything. "I know it's early," Jamison began, scanning the room of board members, executives, and department heads. "But this couldn't wait. Anderson Tech was nearly destroyed from the inside out, and we now have conclusive proof of who orchestrated the attack." A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. Mia stepped forward, clicking the remote in her hand. A screen lit up behind them, showing a timeline of the breach. With practiced precision, she walked them through every step. How the network was penetrated, the virus embedded, and access granted through forged credentials. She presented the false email sent from an executive account to the night security guard and traced it back to a workstation used within the building after hours. Jamison watched the room, watching reactions. Some leaned forward, others stiffened. Finally, one board member, Gray Foster, head of operations, cut in. "This is all very detailed, Miss Jones, but can you tell us who was actually behind the attack?" Without a word, Mia placed the folder in front of him. Gray opened it. His face went pale. The name and email logs didn't lie. Debbie Lattimore. Mia's voice was clear. Debbie used her access as a board member to forge credentials, communicate with a junior employee, and enable a third-party breach. She funneled data through a proxy server and planted a virus that would have erased years of company work. Her motivation wasn't financial. It was personal. Dead silence. Jamison spoke then, his tone controlled. "She admitted to it in a recorded confrontation yesterday. Said she was hurt by my dismissal of her. That choosing someone else over her was the ultimate insult. So she decided to destroy me and this company." Gray looked up slowly, stunned. "Debbie?" Mia nodded. "She made it clear she didn't believe someone like me belonged in this world. She said it herself. I was a distraction, someone who needed to be reminded of her place." Another board member, Cecilia Yoon, sat forward. "This is a lot. Is the evidence conclusive?" "I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't," Mia replied firmly. Just then, the doors opened. 2 uniformed officers entered, followed by Debbie, flanked by HR and security. Her designer heels clicked sharply against the tile, and her expression was icy, unreadable. "This is ridiculous," she hissed as the officers moved in. "Jamison, you can't be serious. You let her do this to me." Jamison met her gaze. "You did this to yourself." Debbie's voice cracked. "After everything we built, after everything there was no we, Debbie, and there's no excuse for trying to burn the company down because of your ego." The officers took her by the arms. She turned her glare on Mia. "You don't belong here. You'll never belong." Mia didn't flinch. "You don't get to decide that." Debbie was escorted out. The doors closed behind her, but the weight of what had happened hung heavy in the air. The room was quiet until one board member cleared his throat. "Well, I suppose we owe you both an apology and our gratitude." Jamison nodded, but his eyes were on Mia. When the meeting ended, most filed out in hushed silence, processing the scandal. Jamison lingered. "You didn't have to stand up there with me," he said quietly. "Yes, I did," Mia replied. "It was never just about the breach. It was about the power people think they have to erase women like me. You proved that wrong. I did what needed to be done. Doesn't mean it didn't hurt." He reached for her hand, tentative. "Mia, I know this hasn't been fair to you, any of it. But I want you to know, I meant what I said. I care about you. And whatever we are or could be, I'm willing to fight for it." Mia looked at him, eyes sharp but not cold. "I don't need you to fight for me," she said. "I need you to stand with me." A slow smile spread across Jamison's face. "I can do that." And for the first time in weeks, Mia let herself smile back. Just a little. Not because the fight was over. Later that evening, Mia sat across from her mother at the kitchen table, still processing everything that had gone down at Anderson Tech. The house smelled like roasted garlic and something sweet in the oven, but her appetite hadn't caught up with her mind. Karen poured them both tea and leaned in. "So, what happened?" Mia exhaled, rubbing her temples. "Debbie was behind the cyber attack. She tried to take the whole company down because she couldn't handle being rejected, especially not for me." Karen's eyes widened. "That woman's got nerve." She said I don't belong in Jamison's world. Mia laughed bitterly. "Like that's her decision to make." Karen narrowed her eyes. "And Jamison, what's his story in all this?" Mia hesitated. "He told me he has feelings for me." Karen smiled, not surprised. "And how do you feel?" Mia looked down, fingers curling around her cup. "I like him, a lot, but everything's complicated. We work together. The rumors, the power imbalance, it's a mess." Karen waved a hand. "So don't work together. Didn't HR say 5 companies a week call asking about you?" Mia gave a small smile. "I'm good at what I do." "Exactly. You've got options with jobs. But how many men like Jamison are chasing you right now?" Mia rolled her eyes, laughing despite herself. "You make it sound like a clearance sale." "I'm serious," Karen said. Softer now. "Don't run from something real just because fear is loud. Talk to him. Figure it out together. You don't have to decide tonight, but don't ghost the man." Mia nodded, her smile growing. "Yeah, I'll talk to him." Karen grinned. "Good. Now eat something. You just took down a traitor and found yourself a CEO. That's worth a celebration." The next morning, Mia called in and took a personal day. No conference calls, no emergency emails, no firewall breakdowns, just space. She needed it. By 10 a.m., she was standing in the lobby of one of the top tech firms that had been courting her for over a year. Verity Dynamics. Sleek architecture, open workspaces, soft lighting, diverse staff, wellness lounges, and energy that felt alive but not overwhelming. She was greeted by the director of engineering, then given a tour that made her breath catch. This wasn't just a step up, it was her dream. The company offered her a management role in cybersecurity, a significant salary bump, quarterly bonuses, a mental health day every month, and a gold-tier health plan. But it wasn't just the perks. It was the way they talked to her. With respect, as a leader, not just a problem solver. By the time she left, her hands were full of materials and her head full of possibilities. She turned off her phone to think, to breathe, to feel without interruption. When she walked into her apartment later that evening, she was surprised to find Jamison sitting on her couch, his tie loosened and his eyes full of concern. "Mia," he said, standing, "I've been calling you all day. You didn't answer. I thought something happened." "I just needed time," she said, setting down her bag. "I went to visit Verity Dynamics." His face fell instantly. "You're leaving?" "They made an offer," she said gently. "One I'd be stupid not to consider." Jamison stepped closer. "Mia, I know I'm the CEO, but I'm also just a man who looks forward to seeing you every single day. Please don't make a decision yet. Not until we talk. Really talk." She paused, heart pounding. "I'm not saying yes to the job," she said. "But I'm not saying no either." And that was enough, for now. Mia spent the next few days keeping her distance. She didn't respond to Jamison's texts. She didn't stop by his office. She didn't linger in the halls or show up for her usual morning coffee in the break room. She clocked in, did her work, and clocked out. Quiet, focused, invisible. She wasn't angry. She was just trying to think, to separate her feelings from her future. Jamison wasn't just a man. He was her boss, her almost lover, the reason her name had been dragged through office gossip. And now, the reason she might leave the best job she'd ever had. She needed clarity, and that meant space. But Jamison noticed her absence more with every hour. Her voice missing from morning meetings, her laugh missing from the hallway, her seat empty during strategy sessions. And he couldn't sit still anymore. Behind the scenes, Jamison went to work. Not as her boss, not as the CEO, but as a man trying to protect what he cared about. He met with the company lawyer and HR director, laying out everything. The tension, the blurred lines, the undeniable connection between him and Mia. He asked what could be done to remove the conflict of interest without compromising her career, or his. Then he went to the board. He proposed a new structure, a separate division under Research and Security Innovation. He asked them to promote Mia to director, give her her own team, full autonomy, a budget, and most importantly, zero direct reporting to him. He offered to relinquish any oversight connected to her role, ensuring that no one could accuse her of favoritism or him of crossing boundaries. "She saved this company," he told them. "She's more than just a brilliant analyst. She's a visionary. We either give her the freedom to lead or we lose her, and I don't think we can afford that." The board listened, and the next morning, Mia was called to the boardroom. She entered with her usual guarded grace, shoulders back, chin up, prepared for anything. But Jamison wasn't there. Only the board members, seated, folders in front of them, nodding politely as she stepped inside. "Mia," said Cecilia Yoon, head of compliance and ethics, "thank you for coming on short notice." "Of course," Mia replied carefully, taking the offered seat. "We wanted to speak with you directly," said another member. "You've been a critical part of this company's stability during one of the most dangerous incidents in our history. Your work on identifying the breach, exposing the internal leak, and your conduct throughout the ordeal. It's not gone unnoticed," Cecilia added. Mia nodded, still unsure where this was going. "We understand you've been approached by other firms," a third board member chimed in. "Frankly, we're not surprised. But we don't want to lose you." A folder was slid across the table. Inside, Mia found a detailed job proposal. Director of Strategic Cyber Innovation. Her own division, her own team, a budget, a private office, a hybrid schedule, and a salary increase that even Verity Dynamics would find hard to top. She blinked. "This is real?" "Very real," Cecilia said, smiling. "This isn't just a promotion, Mia. It's acknowledgement. You've outgrown your current position. You need room to build, to lead." Mia stared at the offer, her fingers trembling slightly as they rested on the edge of the page. "We'd like an answer," one board member said, "but we understand if you need time to think." Mia finally looked up. "I appreciate this, I do," But I need a day or two. Of course, Cecilia said. One more thing. Mia raised an eyebrow. If you are or become romantically involved with a member of the executive or senior management team, please notify HR so we can ensure full transparency. But off the record, she leaned in slightly, voice softening. You have our support. Whatever your decision. Mia was speechless. She left the boardroom stunned, heart pounding in her chest. Offer folder pressed to her chest like a lifeline. She drove home in silence, trying to wrap her mind around it all. The respect, the trust, the freedom. They wanted her. Not just as an asset, but as a leader. That night, Jamison was waiting in the lobby of her building. He stood as soon as he saw her, looking both nervous and hopeful. Can we talk? Mia hesitated, then nodded. They took the elevator up in silence. Once inside her apartment, she finally spoke. You were in the boardroom. No, he said. That was intentional. I wanted them to see you. Just you. No ties, no power dynamics, no shadows. She placed the folder on her kitchen counter. You did this? I made the case, he admitted. They made the call. She crossed her arms, studying him. Why? Jamison's voice was low. Because I believe in you, and because I couldn't stand the thought of watching you walk out of my life, knowing I had the power to create a better path, and didn't. Her eyes softened. You took yourself out of the chain of command. Completely. You'd run your own team, your own projects. You'd answer to the board, not me. No more rumors, no more politics. Mia let out a slow breath. You really did all that? Jamison took a step closer. Mia, I want you to stay. But more than that, I want you to choose to stay. Not because of me, not because of them, but because you believe there's something worth building here. For yourself. She looked down, her voice quiet. You make it really hard to walk away, you know that? Good, he said, smiling. Because I'm not going anywhere. I need you in my life. Mia looked up, searching his face for any trace of manipulation, any ulterior motive. But all she saw was sincerity. And maybe, just maybe, something like love. I'll give you an answer soon, she said softly. I'll wait, he replied, as long as it takes. That night, after pacing her apartment for what felt like hours, Mia finally called the one person who always knew how to center her. Hey baby, Karen answered, instantly picking up on the tightness in her daughter's voice. Talk to me. Mia sat on her couch, barefoot, the job offer folder still unopened beside her. Mom, everything just happened. The board offered me a whole new position, my own department, more than I ever imagined. Karen's voice warmed. I'm not surprised. You earned that. That's not all. Mia hesitated. Jamison, he went to the board behind the scenes. He created the role, cut himself out of the chain of command. He didn't want to be the reason I left. Karen didn't say anything right away, then let out a slow, knowing sigh. Honey, that man has more than just feelings for you. Mia blinked. You think he's in love? Karen chuckled. Mia, he's not just interested, he's invested. He took steps. He fought for your career, protected your name, and made sure you would shine even if it meant stepping back. That's not just love, that's mature love. Mia fell silent. Karen's voice softened. Are you sure you don't feel the same? I don't know, Mom, Mia said quietly. I've never been in love. I don't know what it's supposed to feel like. Yes, you do, baby, Karen said gently. Let me ask you something. When you wake up in the morning, do you think about him? Mia didn't respond. When you're at work, do you wonder what he's doing? Do you catch yourself looking for him, missing him? Mia's lips parted, but still no words. When he walks into a room, does your heart jump? And when he leaves, do you wish he'd stayed just a little longer? Mia's chest tightened, her eyes suddenly stinging. Karen smiled on the other end of the line. You're not answering because you're thinking about how much you do all those things. A long, still pause stretched between them. Then Mia spoke, her voice a whisper. I'm in love. Karen let out a soft laugh, full of warmth. Yes, baby, you are. Mia sat in stunned silence, the words echoing in her chest. Not just an idea, not a maybe, a truth. She ended the call with her mother, leaned back into the cushions, and stared at the ceiling. Her heart was racing. Not from fear, from recognition. She was in love. And now everything was about to change. Jamison called Mia later that evening. She saw his name flash across the screen, but she couldn't bring herself to answer. Her heart was too full, her thoughts too tangled. She wasn't ready, not yet. But Jamison knew her, and he was already nearby. 15 minutes later, a gentle knock landed at her door. Mia opened it with red-rimmed eyes, her cheeks damp and raw with emotion. Jamison's face changed instantly, worry flooding his features. He stepped forward and gently took her hands. "What's wrong? Mia, talk to me." She didn't answer. She turned and walked to the couch, sitting down slowly and covering her face with her hands, trying to keep it together. Her chest rose and fell in uneven breaths. Jamison followed, but didn't speak. He sat beside her, close but not too close, waiting, giving her the space to come to him. After a long moment, Mia dropped her hands and looked up at him. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said quietly. "For everything you did, for talking to the board. For creating space for me, for protecting me even when I wasn't asking for it." Jamison reached for her hand again, but his eyes searched hers carefully. "Mia, what's really going on?" She stared at him, then took a deep breath that felt like it scraped the inside of her chest. "I love you." Jamison froze, stunned. For a moment, he couldn't speak. Then he pulled her into his arms and held her tight, one hand cradling the back of her head. "I love you too," he whispered into her hair. Mia clung to him, still shaking. "I've never been in love before. I don't know how to do this." Jamison smiled into her shoulder. "We'll figure it out, together. No rush, no pressure, just us." It took an hour for her to fully unwind, her body finally relaxing in his arms. Then he kissed her, slow, gentle, and patient, until the space between them disappeared. They stayed up talking into the early hours, curled into each other on the couch, laughing between quiet moments, dreaming out loud. What would life be like, loving each other? They were ready to find out. That following Monday, Mia and Jamison walked into HR together, calm, confident, and fully aware of the whispers that would follow. But this time, Mia didn't flinch. She wasn't hiding anymore. They filled out the relationship disclosure forms and reviewed the official ethics guidelines. Everything was transparent, by the book. With Jamison having removed himself from her chain of command and Mia's new role reporting directly to the board, there were no conflicts left, only clarity. Later that day, Mia accepted the board's offer and stepped into her new position as Director of Strategic Cyber Innovation. From that moment on, she attacked her new role with full force. She spent the first week reviewing departmental gaps and drawing up a vision for the division. By week 2, she was handpicking her team, analysts, developers, researchers, and ethical hackers who brought both skill and heart to the table. She hired people others overlooked, people like her. Smart, driven, diverse, and hungry to make an impact. Within a month, the department was thriving. Everywhere Mia walked, people took notice. Not because of the rumors anymore, but because of her results. Meanwhile, she and Jamison found their own rhythm. Even with their high-demand careers, they carved out space for each other. Dinners after work became a daily ritual. Sometimes it was takeout and sweats on her couch. Sometimes it was wine and long conversations in his high-rise kitchen. They talked about everything: their work, their plans, the pressure they each felt, and the world they wanted to build together. A year passed like a blink. That spring, Jamison brought up the idea of buying a house. He wanted space, somewhere quieter, a home he could breathe in. But what he really wanted was to know if Mia could see herself there, with him. "I want your help finding a home," he told her over dinner one night. "Because if it's going to be mine, I'm hoping one day it'll be ours." Mia had blinked at him, stunned by how easy those words felt coming from him now, and how natural it felt imagining her name on the mailbox too. They spent weekends touring properties, some too flashy, some too cold, but eventually they found it. A mid-century modern home tucked in a quiet neighborhood outside the city. with a backyard garden, big windows, and a space that felt lived in even while empty. Mia loved it instantly. Jamison closed the deal within days. A month later, the new home was filled with laughter, music, and their closest friends. They hosted a small housewarming party, nothing too formal, just good food, a playlist of their favorite songs, and people who had been there through the ups and downs. As the sun began to set and the music slowed, Jamison pulled Mia onto the makeshift dance floor under the patio lights. She laughed as he twirled her, barefoot in the grass, her hair pulled back, cheeks glowing. He held her close, forehead resting against hers. "I've never been so sure about anything in my life." And then, right there, in the middle of the song, he dropped to one knee. Mia's hand flew to her mouth. "Mia Jones," he said, holding up a velvet box with a ring as timeless and bold as she was, "will you marry me?" The yard went silent. Tears pooled in her eyes as she nodded. "Yes, yes, of course I will." Cheers erupted around them. Karen wiped away tears from the corner of the yard. Someone popped champagne. Someone else screamed, "Finally." 3 months later, in the backyard of the home they now shared, they said "I do" in front of a small circle of family, friends, and team members who had become family too. The garden bloomed behind them. Mia wore a minimalist ivory gown with her natural hair in soft coils. Jamison wore a charcoal suit with no tie, his eyes never leaving hers. Karen walked her down the aisle. The ceremony was simple, heartfelt, and full of laughter. They wrote their own vows. "I used to think I needed to stay in the shadows to be safe," Mia said, looking up at him with a soft smile. "But you showed me that being seen isn't a risk when you're loved for who you are, not what people expect you to be." Jamison's vows made her cry. "I used to think leadership meant standing alone," he said. "Then I met you, and you reminded me that true strength is standing with someone." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, their kiss was met with applause, joy, and not a single doubt in anyone's mind that this was exactly how it was meant to be. That night, under string lights and stars, they danced again, barefoot on the same patch of grass where he'd proposed. No secrets, no drama, just love. Mia was no longer the woman hiding behind data and firewalls. She was seen, chosen, loved. And this time, it was her own name she carried into the spotlight. On her terms, in her power, with a future she built and a man who stood beside her. Always. The end. Hope you enjoyed this story from Green Tea Tales. Help our channel to grow with likes, shares, and subscribes. Thank you.